Hi everyone, my name is Travis and this is the Daily Travesty. I am continuing a series of videos to help introduce new Magic the Gathering players to Draft. Even if you're familiar with Magic, you've been playing for a long time, if you are new to Draft, these videos might interest you. In the last video, we talked about what is Draft, how do you build a draft deck, how do you get enough cards for that. Very, very basic, not actually looking at evaluations of cards or really paying attention to our picks. All we did was take a black-white card to start with and then just took every black and white card we could find. In general, that is how a lot of people start with draft, and in general, that is how you build a very mediocre or poor draft deck. What we're going to talk about in this video is probably the most important concept with drafting, which is staying open or drafting your seat. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. Before I get to that, I just want to mention the concept of rare drafting. There are some people who will basically get into a draft, take the rarest card, and when they get past more cards, take the rarest card, take the rarest card, so on and so forth. That works for some people. Some people's entire intent is to get the rarest cards they can. If you want to do that, that's great. Good for you. You're probably not going to have a great draft deck, and you're likely not going to enjoy the matches. So if you want to start drafting to play games and have fun and win at those games, I suggest you give up on the concept of rare drafting. It usually doesn't come up that much, and most good draft decks are built from a solid base of commons and uncommons, and the rares don't matter as much. Obviously, if you open a really great rare and you take it and it goes in your deck, that's great. It's going to help you win. But we aren't actually looking at card rarity when we're picking cards. We're looking mostly at the color of the card and what does it do? How is this card specifically going to help us win? So let's get into general draft strategy. In the last video, we did what is called forcing our pick. So we took a black and white card to start with, and then we only took black and white cards for the rest of the draft. We ended up with a bunch of red cards we couldn't play. When we looked at what colors we should have been in, it was pretty obvious we probably should have been in red because there are other players at the table and almost none of the other players at the table were taking red cards. That means that there was a lot more quality cards for us to pick in red than there was in black-white because there was already several other people drafting black and drafting white. The biggest trick in draft, or the biggest skill to develop, is to know how to determine which colors are open. This is something we call staying open, or drafting what's open, or drafting your seat, where the 8 people at the table all want the best cards they can possibly get. Now, imagine the extreme case where every single person at the table plays black-white. That means there is 18 packs, 3 from each player, 18 packs of blue cards, red cards, green cards that aren't being used. And the odds are that those blue, red, and green cards are of a higher quality than the leftover black and white cards that everyone else is snapping up. The best case scenario is that there's an even distribution of colors between all 8 players. 5 colors of Magic, 8 people at the table. That means that there's going to be 1 to 2 to maybe 3 people picking up cards of a specific color, and you don't want much more than that. If you can be the one person at the table who's drafting a color, or maybe it's just you and one other person drafting a specific color, and everyone else at the table is fighting over the same cards, your deck in general is going to be a higher quality. So this draft video, this draft lesson, is about trying to identify what's open. Now, it can be really difficult to do, and it requires you to have a good understanding of what cards are in the set and which cards are considered to be the most powerful of each color, because we want to know if people aren't taking those colors. In general, when you're looking at your first pack, yes, you're going to take the best card you can or the most powerful card you can, but what you want to actually be looking at is what are people passing you? Remember, we're going to take a card, and then this bot to our right is going to pass us 14 cards. If there's a really powerful green card in what they pass us, we can pretty much expect that they aren't drafting green cards. Now, you can only read so much into these signals, as they call them, but that's essentially what you're doing when you're drafting. you're looking at what is still in the pack that I feel is powerful and that someone else would have taken if they were in that color. That's what we're going to do in this draft. Doesn't always work out well. Sometimes you still end up with awful draft decks. But in general, the average quality of your deck is going to be higher if you take what's open. So again, I'm not going to focus on specific card evaluations here, but to an extent, we kind of have to. So if I was looking at this, I see that there are a couple really powerful cards. I see this Efreet Flame Painter. It's our rare. This is a really nice color to play in a blue-red deck. Lets you recast some of your spells, which is really nice. This Bookworm is a very powerful green card. It's something that you want in every green deck in Strixhaven. You want at least one of these, and you want to get 8 mana in play and play this, and hopefully gain a bit of life, draw a card, and beat your opponent down with it. Bury in Books is also a really nice card in blue. This is a nice removal spell, sets your opponent back a couple turns, can kill tokens really nicely. So those are sort of the 3 cards I'm looking at to start with. And I don't think you're wrong to pick any of these ones. We're just going to start with the rare. Again, we're not rare drafting, but between these 3 cards, they're all pretty powerful, and we just need to start with something at this point. Again, we're not looking at which card is actually better. In this draft, we're going to try and see if we can find what's open. And that means that we are likely not going to play this Flame Painter. I mean, it would be great if we could, but we're not worried about it. And that's the best lesson I can teach new players that are new to drafting, is you could almost forget about what the first card you picked was. So we're going to pick this Flame Painter, and we're going to completely forget that we took it. Imagine that this was our first pack. Again, we passed all those other 14 cards to the person on our left. Person on our right took 1 card, passed us the rest. And it looks like they... Okay, there's weird stuff going on here. It looks like they took an uncommon because the rare in the pack is still here. The Mystical Archive card is still here. And the Lesson card is here, which I guess is how we ended up with 3 rares in the pack, which is pretty crazy. There's only 2 uncommons in this pack. The third one is missing, which means that the player on our right took an uncommon. That doesn't tell us too much. It's just something interesting to note. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the Flame Painter I took and look at these cards and figure out which of these cards is the best. Now, looking at it, Lash of Malice is pretty good. It only costs 1 mana, can kill a lot of things. Devouring Tendrils is really good in green. This is usually how you're killing your opponent's creatures. You can gain a bit of life off of it. That's really nice. Culling Ritual, also very good, destroying a lot of small stuff. A lot of players will look at this card and be like, well, it kills my stuff as well. But the thing is, you have this card in your hand. You have the information about when you can and cannot play it to your benefit. So cards like this do tend to be quite powerful, even though it kills some of your stuff as well sometimes. And Grape Shot is also pretty powerful. Usually you're going to deal 2 damage with this. Sometimes you'll be able to deal more, but just a pretty nice spell in red. So it looks like we have a powerful green card, a powerful green and black card, and a powerful red card. Any of these 3 cards would be perfect. You could take any of them at this point. It doesn't matter what you take. I'm going to take the red card because I started with the red card. And that's really the only reason why. If this Grape Shot was not in the pack, I wouldn't then be like taking Tome Shredder or Blood Age General just because they're red. I mean, these cards are much, much less powerful than something like Devouring Tendrils or Culling Ritual. So if Grape Shot wasn't here, I don't just pick a red card, I would take the most powerful card. But in this case, it's kind of a close pick between these 3 cards. So I can take this and hope to play both of the cards I took. Again, I'm going to take Grape Shot, and I'm going to forget about both of these cards. I'm going to forget that they exist. We are now receiving the pack from this bot, 2 players to our right. There's going to be 2 cards missing. I see that all the uncommons are here. I see that the lesson is here. There's no Mystical Archive. Oh, here it is. Okay. So they must have taken an uncommon and a rare out of this pack. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's just something interesting to note. And what are the most powerful cards in this pack? Well, I see Fractal Summoning is a really nice lesson to get. Blood Researcher is a very powerful creature in its own right. Some of these other cards can be okay. Mage Hunter, Leyline Invocation, Illustrious Historian can kind of be okay. Right now, we're trying to suss out which cards other players tried to take, or specifically which cards they didn't take. And in this case, I'm not really seeing any super clear signals. I think Blood Researcher is really good, but I don't currently have any black or green cards. So I'm just going to make a mental note of Blood Researcher. And if the next pack we get has really good black or green cards in it, maybe that's something we would want to go into. I note that Fractal Summoning is here. This is a really nice lesson to get. I can play this in red-blue, so this is a card that could potentially go with my red cards. I can also play this in green-blue, or I can play this in black-green. There's a lot of different decks that Fractal Summoning can go into. So taking a card like Fractal Summoning earlier in the draft could actually be really great, because it means that we're more open. We're more likely to build a deck that can play this, because it can go in red-blue, green-blue, green-black. 3 different decks we could potentially play this in. I think for that reason, I'll probably take Fractal Summoning here. It does go with our red cards, but it also goes in a number of different decks. So it's leaving me open. Okay, I'm not just forcing red. I'm not just taking this 2-drop or this 4-mana creature because I already have 2 red cards. I'm taking the card that I'm most likely to play if I'm not in red, or if I am in red. So let's take Fractal Summoning here. Again, I'm not saying this is like the 100% best pick. I'm just trying to talk about staying open. If you want to stay open, one way to do that is to take colorless cards. Reflective Golem is okay. It gets a benefit if you're playing combat tricks, cards that target your own creature. Generally, that's better to play in a red-white deck. We might end up in red-white. I mean, we already have 2 red cards. We could take some white cards and be red-white. The worst case scenario is we have a 3-mana 2/3 that goes in our deck. So sometimes just taking the colorless cards, even though they might be a little bit less powerful than the colored cards in the pack, you know that they're going to fit in your deck regardless. So just something to think about. Other cards in here that are powerful that I'm looking at, I see a Serpentine Curve. This isn't a super high priority, but it does show me that maybe blue is a way to go. Hunt for Specimens is really good as a black 2-mana card. Really nice common to take. It lets you pull a lesson out of your sideboard. You can play Hunt for Specimens and actually get Fractal Summoning if you play a black-green deck. And remember, we made a note earlier that black-green might be open. So this is definitely an option for us. Hunt for Specimens. We could always just take another lesson. This one's colorless. This will go in literally every deck. It'll just sit in the sideboard and we can learn it later. So that's something we might consider as well. There's also a nice lesson here in green. That would lean us more towards being green-blue or green and black. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and take the card that leaves us most open. There aren't really any red cards here. So this is a situation where maybe red isn't a color we're going to go into. I think I'm just going to take the most powerful card, which I believe to be Hunt for Specimens. Study Break is certainly a good card in red-white, but I don't know if we're going to be red-white, and I think Hunt for Specimens is a better hedge. I mean, invariably, you're going to have a bunch of cards you're not going to play in your deck, but you want to take the best, most powerful cards early that are going to set you up for having a good deck. So even though Hunt for Specimens doesn't go with either of our red cards, I think I'm probably going to take Hunt for Specimens here. Again, I don't know if that's the right pick. I'm just trying to show how someone might go about thinking through staying open. All right, and with that, we actually get rewarded a little bit. Poet's Quill is one of the most powerful cards you can take. There's no reason you can't first pick this card unless there's better cards in the pack. It's in black, and we kind of thought that black-green might be open, And now we get rewarded a little bit where this is a very, very good card. There's also a nice green card here, Lesson Basic Conjuration. I'm not going to take this over Poet's Quill, but I am going to make a note of this and again think, hey, maybe black and green are open. I'm seeing some other green cards as well. Scurrid Colony, certainly not a high priority, but the fact that it's still in the pack indicates that 2 or 3 people to our right aren't all in green. Test for Talents is also good in blue, but we're a little bit far away from blue right now. Just something to make note of. There are a couple nice red cards. Academic Dispute is very good, and Stormkiln Artist can be okay in the blue-red deck. But based on us just taking a black card and then being past this Poet's Quill, we're going to take it. Again, we might not play black, right? We are seeing some signals that red it might be open, blue might be open, but we've also seen some very strong signals that black and green are open. So we're going to hedge. We're going to take the most powerful card we can, and then in another pick or two, try and settle on where we're going to be. So we're going to take Poet's Quill. We have 2 nice red cards, 2 nice black cards, and we could end up in either of these decks. Okay, well, this is kind of interesting now. We have a couple really nice, well, we have a nice blue card. We've got another good Academic Dispute for red. And we've got Elemental Masterpiece, which is pretty good in the blue-red deck. You can also splash it into green-blue if you want to, which means you play green-blue. You put a mountain and some other important cards in your deck that let you play it. We're not going to worry about splashing right now. So there's 2 decent blue cards here, a Pop Quiz and a Frost Trickster. There is a good red card. And there is a couple blue-green cards. So this is kind of a tough spot to be in. Definitely in the last pack as well, the one that we just shipped along that we took the Poet's Quill out of, there were some blue cards in there as well. So it's looking like maybe blue is open. And that might shift us back towards blue-red again. Or maybe blue-green. Notice how in the first 5 cards, we've taken a bunch of different colors, and we're not sure what colors we're going to be in. That's what makes draft a little bit exciting and a little bit fun. I think the best card in this pack is the Frost Trickster. And if we end up playing blue, that could be blue-red with our Flame Painter and our Grape Shot. Or it could be blue-green. In either case, we would get to use this Fractal Summoning. So we might actually have to abandon our 2 black cards at this point. It's hard to say, but I think this card is the most powerful, and it's not too far of a stretch for us to be in blue at this point. So let's take the Frost Trickster and see where we go. Okay, so we don't really care about these first 2 cards. Carrick Wrangler is okay in green decks. It's not great. Agonizing Remorse is okay as a black card. Again, we see a black card. Not sure what's going on there. Spectre of the Fens is an okay black card as well. Nothing super high priority. If we were really worried about our deck at this point, we could take a colorless card, Cogwork Archivist. But this is an expensive spell that we're not too interested in, and it's a common. There are other cards that are very similar to this, so we're not going to worry about that right now. We did use 1 pick on this Frost Trickster, but hey, there are no blue cards in this pack. There are no red cards in this pack. This green card is okay, but not great. So maybe we just go back to black now and see. Maybe black is open. Maybe we take Agonizing Remorse, Spectre of the Fens, or maybe we just take the Witherbloom Campus. This is something that could really help us in any black deck, any green deck. Certainly if we're in black-green, it's good. It's kind of a safe pick to take here as well. Even if we end up in blue-green, taking something like Witherbloom Campus makes it more likely that we're going to be able to splash for some black cards. Maybe we want to splash this Poet's Quill. Play blue-green with a couple ways to make black mana, including Witherbloom Campus. So I might actually just take the land here. Again, trying to stay the most open, trying to navigate which color each bot is. And it's really hard to do. It's something that it just takes a long time to practice with and get a feel for, and it doesn't work out every draft. All right, we have a Serpentine Curve, which is an okay blue card, not super high priority. We do have an Inkling Summoning, which is a very good lesson to get if you are a black deck, and I think I'm just going to take this. It is more powerful than any of the other cards here. We can certainly leave it in our sideboard as a lesson in the Strixhaven set, or we can just put this in our deck as a 3 mana 2/1 flying creature. So we're definitely going to take the Inkling Summoning here. And again, that's another vote for black. It's almost like we're collecting votes on which color we should be in, and we're going to see which color gets the most votes. And it's totally fine to do this. It's totally fine to stay open and swim around in the first pack. Hopefully by the end of the first pack, we have a better idea of what's open. Here we see kind of a junky red card. We see Whirlwind Denial, which I think a lot of people like better than it is. I don't really want this card in my deck. I see a Reckless Amplimancer, which isn't super exciting, but it is a 2 mana card. 2 mana 2/2 is usually pretty important in draft. You want enough cards that only cost 2 mana, so you have stuff to do early. They can defend you. They can kill other creatures. So that's something I'm definitely looking at. We also thought that maybe black-green was an open color. And by taking this green card, maybe that moves us more into a black-green, makes the Fractal Summoning better. There are also a couple of white cards here. We haven't seen a ton of cards that are white that are really powerful, but that is something to note because we might end up in black-white. So something to think about. I think I'm just going to take the 2 mana card here, the cheap card, in a color I might end up in, which is green. I'm not losing out on that much. None of the cards in this pack are particularly powerful, and I'm most likely to play a 2 mana 2/2 if I play green. So I'll put it here with the Campus. All right, well, here's a 2 mana 2/2 in red, and we thought we might be in red. Here's a red-white card. I don't think we're going to be playing red-white. We haven't seen a ton of red-white cards. This green card is not particularly good. Again, another 6 mana 4/5 with reach in any color. Black-white card. I might just take this red card here. Again, we're not sure what our colors are. We have 2 really good red cards at this point already. Again, we're staying open and we're trying to see if we can settle on what we're supposed to be in. All right, well, Leyline Invocation is a little bit of a signal for us that green might be open. This card is fine. You can put this in your deck. I would be happy to play 1 or 2 of these in any green deck I have. It's always a 6 mana 6/6. Sometimes it's a little bit more powerful than that. There is some thought to this Owlin's Shield Mage, which is a black and white card. We thought maybe black was a bit open. We haven't seen a ton of white, but this card could also be very powerful. I think if the Leyline Invocation wasn't in the pack, I would take this Shield Mage. But because we just took a green card and we thought green-black might be open, we're going to take another green card and see what happens here. Again, it looks like a pile. It looks like we've swam around quite a bit, but we're going to be able to actually go into black-green here. We're going to be able to go into red-blue if that's still open. Maybe even black-white is open. We've just taken 2 green cards in a row. Again, I think Serpentine Curve is fine, but it's not a super pull into the blue colors. We only have 1 blue card, so I'm not going to worry about blue at this point. Study Break, again, is fine, but we aren't really looking to go into white at this point in time. We've just taken 2 green cards. We'll take another green card in Containment Breach. Remember that every time you take a card, you're also sending signals to the person on your left. We're trying to read what people on our right are doing and what cards they took and what colors they didn't take. We're also doing the same thing. And if it looks like we're trying to maybe go into green a little bit more, the more green cards I can take pulls my opponents at the table or the other people drafting at the table away from those colors. So I'm going to take Containment Breach and see if that pays off for us. If not, we're not really losing out on anything here. All right, best card in the pack is Academic Dispute. So we'll just take it. Again, not sure if we're going to be in red. Second Academic Dispute. So it looks like red might be open. Maybe we are supposed to be in red here. And a last pick black card that's okay, but not great. I'm just going to throw it in the sideboard because it doesn't matter that much. All right. We are in what looks to be a couple different colors. We could still be black and green. And I think right now our black and green is very good. We did see a fair number of red cards come around at the end there. And there were some white cards coming around, so red-white might even still be open to us. I don't think we're in blue-green or blue-red. We really only took the Frost Trickster there. Still might be in black-green. Let's see what we have. We can't really read signals based on a pack we just opened because none of the other players at the table have taken any cards here. Remember that this is pack 2, so we're actually going to be passing the other way around the table, which means that the signals we were thinking about in the first pack aren't valuable to us anymore because we're getting passed to from this spot, not this one. So we can't actually use the information that we got in the first pack as well here. That being said, we can still use some of the information. Mage Duel, this is a really powerful green card. You always want to play this in your green deck. Mentor's Guidance is a really nice blue card for drawing cards. Not a super high priority, but I think you do take this card within the first 2 to 4 picks if you're in blue already. Elite Spellbinder is a really nice card. 3 mana, 3/1 flying. Get to look at your hand. Make something more expensive. If we were going to maybe shift into red-white, this is a card I would love to have in my deck. Red-white also allows us to play the Inkling Summoning potentially. So Elite Spellbinder is something I'll definitely be thinking about. If we kind of wanted to stick with the black route, we could take Eliminate, but we didn't actually see a ton of black cards come around to us in the first pack. Really, it was just the Hunt for Specimens, which we weren't sure about, and then the Poet's Quill, and that was really the only signal. So I feel like black is probably not the deck we're going to end up in. Mostly it was red cards coming around. So we might want to try and focus a little bit more on red cards. And that puts us maybe into red-white a little bit. I think this Elite Spellbinder is the best card in the pack. If we wanted to stay really, really open, we could take Environmental Sciences. This card is going to go in every deck, and in fact, you do want this card in every single one of your decks. It's just nice for fixing mana. Even if you're only playing a 2-color deck, this card is really good for you. But I think Elite Spellbinder is enough better, and there was enough of a reason to think we might be in red-white that I'm going to take it here. Pretty tough draft so far, though. This is our first white card in pack 2. And sometimes that just happens. Sometimes you're not sure what you should be in, and you end up taking white, a 5th color in your second pack. Divide by Zero is the most powerful card here, but blue-green is pretty far away from us. Blue-red is still a possibility, so that's something to think about. Elemental Summoning is decent as a lesson. Stonebound Mentor is okay as a red-white card, but I'm not going to pick this up until I know that I'm in red-white. Defend the Campus, again, is okay. At this point, I think I'm still happy to take the most powerful card, which is this Divide by Zero. Not really sure where we're going to end up with the decks. We could be in blue-red, in which case this card's going to be very powerful. Sometimes really tough to tell what you should be doing. Okay, well, this Thunderous Orator is a nice 2-mana card for the red-white deck. Silverquill Pledge Mage would also be okay because it could go in red-white or white-black if we ended up going back to white-black. Study Break, we saw some of these in the last pack. I'm not going to take it highly here because it might come all the way around the table again. No one might take this, but this is a decent card to put in a white deck as well. Prismari Pledge Mage, something I would love to have in a blue-red deck. Not so much in a white-red deck. It's a pretty tough draft, I think, in general. And sometimes you're just going to have tough drafts. Thunderous Orator, I think, is really good. And we were kind of leaning into red-white, but then we picked up a Divide by Zero. I think I'm just going to take this Prismari Pledge Mage. There was a decent amount of blue-red in the first pack, more so than the white cards. And there are lots of cards that are 2-mana 2/2s in white and black. So I can pick up other cards that do the same thing, and in red as well. I can't pick up as many cards for the blue-red deck that are 3/3s and work really well in that deck. So I'm just going to hedge a little bit and stay open. And here we get immediately punished because we see a decent white card in Strict Proctor and a pretty good white card in Expel. Both of these coming around to me after a few players have already picked. There's 3 cards missing from the pack. Tells me that maybe white is the way to go. So let's just go ahead and move into white here. And maybe we'll play a white-red deck. Also a Bookworm and a Mage Duel here, meaning that green is open in this direction. So maybe this spot and this spot and this spot aren't in green. But maybe the next few are. And if we can ship them green cards, maybe they'll give us more white and red cards in the future. Let's go ahead and take the... when you're trying to pick between 2 cards that are both kind of powerful, there's a lot of things to think about. In this case, I'm just going with the mana cost. This one costs less mana. And if you can make your overall mana cost of your deck lower, you're going to have more consistent games. And Strict Proctor has a fine effect. So we're going to take the Strict Proctor here. And now we see that we are getting set up. White is maybe open in this direction. Pilgrim of Ages is really good in a white deck. It's really grindy. It draws you your 4th land. Something you want in all your white decks, black-white or red-white. There's also another Thunderous Orator here, which is a really nice 2-mana card. Again, I don't think I'm going to take it here. There are other red and white 2-mana 2/2s. Even though this one's better, it's not that much better to take compared to something like Pilgrim of the Ages, which I am really interested in. Enthusiastic Study, also very good in a more aggressive red-white deck. Pushing through damage, learning, really powerful. Expanded Anatomy, also something I would be interested in later. I don't want to take it super highly. I want to make sure I have enough cards in my deck itself. So I'm going to go with Pilgrim of the Ages, but there are plenty of cards in here that we actually hope come around to us. Remember, we are passing these, and we're going to pass them all the way around the table. We're actually going to get to see some of these cards again, and maybe something like this Orator or this Anatomy or the Study are still going to be in it when they come back to us. So let's go ahead and take Pilgrim of the Ages. Yeah, and it looks like there are some decent white cards coming around. So I'm just going to go ahead and take another Pilgrim of the Ages and see if we can move into white here. Wow, really nice red-white cards here. Pillar Drop Rescuer is a really nice 5-mana card, brings something back. Pillar Drop Warden, a really nice defender, can block flyers, can buy you back an instant or sorcery later on. So that's something I want. This Spirit Summoning is also something I would like to have. It's not the best summoning card, and we already have an Inkling Summoning, which is better. So I'm not too worried about picking up the Spirit Summoning at this point in time, but it's something I wouldn't mind having in my deck. I think right now I'm going to move all the blue cards out of the deck and into the sideboard, because it does seem like we are potentially going to be red-white. I'm going to move the green cards away. I'm going to move the black cards away. And then we're going to distribute the cards based on our mana curve. So how much mana does each card cost? This is something you do want to pay attention to during draft. You don't want too many cards that cost a lot of mana, because you'll sit around for the first 4 or 5 or 6 turns of the game doing nothing, and your opponent will kill you faster. So you do want to make sure you have lower costed cards. And the reason I did this right now is because I want to pick between Pillar Drop Rescuer and Pillar Drop Warden, and I wanted to see what my mana curve looked like. Either of these cards I think is a fine pick here. Pillar Drop Rescuer lets us get back Elite Spellbinder. It lets us get back Strict Proctor, Blood Age General. I also feel like we're picking up more white cards right now, and there is a small percentage chance we actually go back into black. So I want to take more white cards than red at this point in time. I think both of these cards are fine. If Pillar Drop Rescuer wasn't here, I would snap up this Warden. But for right now, I'm going to take the white card. That gives me a little bit of extra value. I also don't have a ton of instants or sorceries to take from my graveyard yet. But I do have some creatures, so I think Pillar Drop Rescuer is going to be better overall. Yeah, the red-white deck is certainly flowing in Pack 2, and I think it was to our benefit to stay open there and try and settle on what colors we were going to get. Enthusiastic Study, I think, is what I'm going to take here. This card has been very powerful. It can sometimes let you win a combat. If you attack with a 2/2, they block with a 2/2. You can eat their 2/2, deal damage, learn. More often than not, I've seen it help you trade up. So you attack with a 2/2, they block with a 3/3. Both creatures kill each other, but you get an extra card in the exchange. So you're kind of even on the exchange there. This card is very nice. I like having ways to learn. We already have 2 learn cards. I'm actually going to pull those out. Actually, no, we only have 1 learn card at this point. Maybe that's something to consider. We have 2 ways to learn with these academic disputes and only 1 lesson to get. That's going to be something to keep in mind later on. Enthusiastic Study works really well with Efreet Flame Painter, though, because giving Flame Painter Trample lets it get through for damage, so we get to cast instants and sorceries from our graveyard again. And Enthusiastic Study is an instant that you can recast right away. So I actually think I am going to take the Enthusiastic Study here. Stonerise Spirit is okay. I don't think this card is great, and it's not something I would take at this point in the draft. I'm going to have chances to get these later. I don't think Lumimancer is super fantastic. If you built a very, very aggressive white deck, it would probably be okay, but hasn't been super impressive for me. Lorehold Excavation is actually pretty powerful in the late game. So if you're playing a slow deck with a lot of creatures, this card can buy you a couple extra creatures. I think it's a really close pick between this Excavation and the Study, but because my current deck already has a Efreet Flame Painter in it, and that's a really good combination with the Study, I'm going to take the Study here. Even though I think Lorehold Excavation could be okay in a deck like this. Yeah. So we'll take the Study here. And instantly punished because we could have had both. And sometimes that will happen. I'm not going to take a second Study yet. Guiding Voice is also a very good card to take early on. It helps us learn. We're definitely going to want to pick up some more lessons. But I'm just going to take the best cards I can right now. Here's that 3-mana 3/3 we had passed earlier. And remember I said this is a card I would play in red-white, but I don't want to take it yet. That's because it's going to come around, right? No one else at the table looks like they're in red-white. So we're going to get cards like this later. We don't have to take them the first time we see them. We can take them the second time. But 3-mana 3/3, perfectly fine spell to put in our deck. Study Break is really nice. Again, another way to learn. So we really want to prioritize lessons at this point. But I think Study Break is good in these kind of decks. This is our first miss. There's nothing in here that we really want. So we could just take the red card to signal to other players that we are taking red. We don't want them to take red. But we're never playing Dragon's Approach. And we'll just take some of the more powerful cards. Ageless Guardian, 2-mana 1/4. Not exactly a card I want to play, but it goes in our deck, and maybe we're going to have to play it. So I'm going to take it and hope not to play this card. Secret Rendezvous, really bad. Don't play this card. You both get to draw 3 cards, but you're the one who had to spend the mana and time to do it, so your opponent gets more resources than you. Really bad. Let's take this Ageless Guardian, hope not to play it. Campus Guide is fine. If you have to put this in your deck as a 2-mana 2/1, that's fine. If you have splash colors and you're playing a bit of a third color, it can help you there. Sometimes you only have 2 mana in hand when you start the game and you want your third one. So this card again is fine. I think it's better than Ageless Guardian. I think it's better than this 1/4 we just picked up. Neither is a super big priority, but it can be okay. And our deck is starting to come together. We kind of moved in on red-white, and I think that we are going to stick with red-white at this point. By the time you get to pack 3, hopefully you've settled into 2 colors, which we certainly have. There are a couple cards in here that would be interesting to us, like Pledge Mage or Pilgrim of the Ages, but we just opened a pack that has Mascot Exhibition. This is one of the best cards in the set, if not the best card. Notice that it's colorless, it's a lesson. Any deck can play this. 7 mana, you get 3 creatures. This card is excellent. We have a ton of ways to learn in our deck, and this card is probably the best thing we could have picked up from a pack. We have 2 Academic Disputes, we have a Guiding Voice, We have a study break. So very, very happy to get a mascot exhibition here. If mascot exhibition wasn't in this pack, we would probably be looking at taking Lorehold Pledge Mage as a nice attacking, defending creature, or another Pilgrim of the Ages. Our deck doesn't have a ton of cards that are expensive, so the extra land eventually goes down. If we didn't already have 2 Pilgrim of the Ages, I would probably want that card more than the Pledge Mage. But because we already have 2 Pilgrim of the Ages, I might take this Pledge Mage instead. Of course, we're taking nothing over Mascot Exhibition. Wow. Okay. Look at this pack. This is 100% luck based, and sometimes that'll happen. There are 3 really powerful cards for our deck and a couple other cards we might take. Draconic Intervention, super nice red spell. And this is the power of staying open. The person that passed this to us, this bot here, isn't playing red. And so because we decided to play red, we get past really, really good cards. Now, that only works if you're playing at a table with people who care about doing well in the draft. If people are rare drafting, this isn't going to happen to you that often. But I think in general, more often than not, especially on Arena, people are going to pass you rares that aren't in their color. They would rather take a card and try and win gems and rank up than just rare draft. So Draconic Intervention, really, really good. Igneous Inspiration, really, really good. This card is first pickable by itself. 3 mana, 3 damage to anything, learn. Really powerful card. Quintorius Field Historian, also really, really nice. If you pick this card up earlier in the draft, you can build around it. You can pick up cards that help you get cards out of your graveyard, get a lot of 3/2s. This is actually a pretty tough pick. Draconic Intervention, really, really nice to have access to. I think it's a little bit better in blue-red, where you can have the really, really expensive instants and sorceries. Igneous Inspiration, always going to be good. And I think in our deck, we're actually playing a lot of creatures, and we're more likely to want to kill creatures. So there's an argument that Igneous Inspiration here is better than Draconic Intervention. I would, of course, play Quintorius in this deck, but I haven't got a ton of cards that help activate the ability on this one. Maybe just the Pillar Drop Rescuer. Efreet Flame Painter also does so. Ooh. Pilgrim of the Ages. Actually, there are a lot of ways to activate this. So I'm not going to take Quintorius here. I'm going to take one of the other red cards that's obviously very powerful. But there's a chance that no one else at the table, none of the other players, are in red and white. And this card actually might come all the way around the table back to us. I hope it does. I'm not expecting it to. It is powerful. But who knows? We are definitely going to be taking one of the red cards here. And that's where we kind of go into our deck. We are more of a creature-y deck. And we don't have a ton of ways to kill our opponent's creatures. Grapeshot isn't a great card, or isn't super consistent for killing opponent's creatures. Enthusiastic Study, not super consistent. So I'm going to actually take Igneous Inspiration here. This is a really hard pick. Any one of these 3 cards would be fine. But I want ways to just kill my opponent's creatures because I am going to be attacking a lot. Igneous Inspiration, also a great card to recast off of Flame Painter. Draconic Intervention, not a great card to recast if you end up killing the Flame Painter. But man, a lot of powerful cards here for us. Again, Igneous Inspiration is also cheaper. It's 3 mana compared to the 4 mana from Intervention. So I'm going to go with the cheaper card, and I think the card that fits our deck better, but very tough pick there. Wow. Again, rewarded for staying open. I think red-white is the deck we're supposed to be in. This Retriever Phoenix, very powerful, 4 mana, 2/2 flying. And anytime you would learn, you can come back from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's a little bit lucky for us because we did pick up so many ways to learn. Guiding Voice, Academic Disputes, and we don't actually have that many lesson cards. This card is great. I would play it all the time. And the fact that we have extra ways to learn is great. This Inkling Summoning would also be really nice for us. Maybe it'll wheel come all around the table. It's something we call wheeling. Maybe it won't, but I would be happy to pick this card up later. And that's probably the card I would pick right now if Retriever Phoenix wasn't in the pack. We also don't have a ton of 4-mana cards, so this fits our curve really nicely. We're going to be able to go 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana really nicely. All right, so again, a couple nice picks. Expanded Anatomy would be fine because we have so many ways to learn. Eager First Year is an okay card. It's better than Ageless Guardian or Campus Guide, so that's something I might take to swap out cards. Probably don't need another Guiding Voice, given that I already have Academic Disputes to learn and not enough lessons to get. Ardent Dustspeaker, I think, can be okay. I haven't seen this card that much. I haven't seen people play it that much, so it seems okay. But we are actually going to take none of these because actually, no, never mind. The back half of this card, Flamethrower Sonata, is okay. It's actually, this is a really, really nice card in blue-red. Being able to play Torrent Sculptor or sometimes Flamethrower Sonata is really nice. It is a red card, but we don't have a ton of instants and sorceries in our deck that we would want to discard to this. So although it's a consideration, we're not going to take it. We are going to take Expanded Anatomy or Ardent Dustspeaker. We already have a bunch of ways to learn. Again, not that many lessons to get. I do want more lessons, but I feel like this Ardent Dustspeaker is going to be powerful. Even just being able to copy some cards from our graveyard is going to be good. So we will take this card here. Not sure if that's the right pick. Okay, there are some spicy cards in here. Explosive Welcome is a really powerful 8-mana card. Elemental Masterpiece, really powerful 7-mana card. I think both those cards are much better in blue-red or blue-green and splashing for red. For us, we're just going to take the Lorehold Campus. This is one way to make our mana more consistent. And actually having the ability to scry when you have nothing else to do, you've run out of cards, can sometimes win you games. If both you and your opponent are just drawing cards off the top of your deck, trying to find something to close out the game, this card could be really good. We could also take the Silverquill Pledge Mage as a 1 white 3-mana card. It's not great in our deck, but it is something we could take. But I think just having access to this campus is going to be much better. So let's take it here. All right, not much going on here. I would be happy taking Stonebound Mentor in this case. I think just taking Expanded Anatomy is going to be fine. We have a whole bunch of ways to learn, and we do want some lessons to go get. And maybe this Stonebound Mentor will wheel. Maybe it'll come back around. Maybe this Stonerise Spirit will wheel. I'm not sure if I really want that card. Tome Shredder is okay. I think it's better in blue-red, so we're not super worried about it at this point. So we'll just take the Expanded Anatomy. Being in red-white paid off. Finding the open lane paid off here. Professor of Symbology is one of the best 2-mana cards you could possibly get. This is a card you can pick first and be very happy about. 2-mana 2/1 that learns you a card. Awesome. Would also be happy taking Spirit Summoning here or Pledge Mage, but this card is just going to be the most efficient. It costs the least. We could even take out one of our worse 2-mana cards. So really, really happy that we ended up in red-white. And that's the power of staying open. You end up getting very powerful cards that no one else at the table wants, rather than if we had just stuck with our initial red-blue, or even black-green for a little bit there. We thought we were going to play black-green. Look at where we ended up. And we're getting really, really nice cards because of it. I swear I'm not trying to influence this, but Lorehold Command. Again, no one else at the table wants to play red-white. We're going to take this amazing red-white card and put it in our deck. If this card wasn't in the pack, we would probably take Environmental Sciences. Obviously, we could play the Third Pilgrim or the Stonerise Spirit, and they would be okay. I think Environmental Sciences is very good. It's also a card you can get off of like your 1-mana learn cards to help you draw your 3rd land if you really need it, or your 4th land. but we're definitely taking Lorehold Command. Really, really nice payoff for being in red-white here. Something we can copy with Flame Painter, Dusk Speaker. Really, really nice card for us. And now the packs are coming around. Again, we already have multiple Pilgrim of the Ages. I think I'll probably just take Lorehold Pledge Mage. It attacks well. Your opponent doesn't always want to block it. You can block with it really nicely. So really good card to have. If I didn't already have 2 Pilgrims, I would take the Pilgrim first. But because I already have 2, I'll take this Pledge Mage. All right, how many ways do we have to learn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 ways to learn, 7 ways to learn, and 3 lessons to get. We are a little bit heavy on learn cards and a little bit light on lessons. It doesn't mean we have to play all of these. I'm trying to pick between Make Your Mark and Study Break. I haven't been super impressed with Make Your Mark. Oftentimes your creature will just end up dying, and you get a 3/2 out of it. So basically it's a 1 mana 3/2 that sometimes you can't play when you want to. How many creatures do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 creatures. We're a little bit light on creatures, so there is some consideration to maybe playing a Star Pupil. This card has been okay, but we do want to be able to play like Guiding Voice on certain things. We already have a ton of other ways to learn. Maybe we just take the Star Pupil as another creature. We do want about 17 creatures in our deck. Divine Gambit, totally fine to play one of these. It's better in slower decks because you don't want your opponent to have anything in hand when you use it, but we don't have a ton of ways to get rid of our opponent's creatures, so Divine Gambit is something we will play in this deck. I don't think this card is particularly good. We might play a 4 mana 2/1 flying. We do want a couple more creatures, and any way that we can get our good spells out of our graveyard and back into our hand is decent for us. We also don't have a ton of very expensive spells, so maybe this is a card we want to play. I don't think we're playing any of these cards, so we'll just take the red card. Stonebound Mentor came back. Awesome. Totally happy to play a 3 mana 3/3 in this deck. And we even found another lesson. That's great. Again, staying open really helped us there. I think our deck turned out really, really nice. Remember that we kind of floated around with this Hunt for Specimens and Poet's Quill early. We even ended up picking a couple blue cards to see if we could be in blue-green or black-green. And then in pack 2, so that was the entire first pack. We had no idea what we were going to play. In pack 2, we kind of settled a little bit more into white, saw some signals there, and then ended up taking a ton of white cards and moved into red-white and got rewarded for it. We picked up this Lorehold Command late. We were picking up Stonebound Mentors late. Retriever Phoenix got passed to us. Professor of Symbology got passed to us. So we ended up with a really, really nice pool of cards. And let's see how the distribution worked out. Look at that. Perfect. There was no one else at the table playing red and white. There was one blue-green player. There were 2 blue-red players, 2 black-green players, a black-white player, and a green-white player, which is a little bit interesting in Strixhaven because that's not a supported color pair. Awesome. We were the only red-white player at the table. There was a couple other players taking red cards, 2 other players taking white cards, but no one in our exact color combination. And I think we made a good decision there. So at this point, what we would have to do is cut some cards from our deck to get to 40 cards. Again, we're going to play 17 lands. We want about 17 creatures, which is what we have here. I think we might take a couple of those out. These lesson cards are going to come out of our deck. Actually, those are contributing to our account. So let's take the lesson cards out. Remember, they can go in your sideboard, which is really nice. So we are at 43. We actually want to cut 3 cards from this. I'm going to take out the least impactful cards. And you can kind of decide what you want to do. I'm not going to show that on stream because we're not actually evaluating specific cards right now. We're just looking at how to stay open. And I think we ended up with a really powerful pool of cards. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any comments. This has been the Daily Travesty.